Hi, everybody. Welcome into another edition. This is Cross Functionality, the show where coaching intersects male and female baseball and softball, hosted by former college baseball and softball players. Thank you for joining us today on the audio side: Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon Music. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, leave a review. We do greatly appreciate that. And watch the show, Softball Strength Academy, on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing to that ahead of time as well. My name is Jim. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Let me bring in friend and co-host, softball national champion at the University of Alabama, current day renowned coach, Cassie Reilly-Boccia, and author, I might add. Cassie, how are you?
Thank you. Doing well. Thank you. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing well. I want to ask you about, before we get into our main topic today, episode 8. This is part 4 of the national championship season in 2012. We're discussing that final game against Oklahoma. There was a lot that was involved in that. So many storyline threads that we're going to dive into today. But I want to ask you about Austin Meadows, who plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's in their organization, and he's, I guess, had a rough year. In 2022 during the season, and he's decided to step away due to some mental health issues, we'll call it. And he wants to address that. As a coach now, someone who is a renowned coach, and you always talk a lot about on your Instagram page and the YouTube page about hitting and about drills, but you also talk a good amount, an abundance amount of information is out there from you about mental health and taking care of your mental well-being as an athlete. Let's talk a little bit about that and what coaches now have to do in the 20th century in 2022 to address the needs mentally of their athletes.
Sure. And, I think one of the best things to start off with is that mental health is very different from mental performance. And so many times I think athletes try to take their tactics from using mental performance, how to push through a tough workout, how to use positive self-talk when they have some negative self-talk, and then they try to take that and apply it to when they actually have a mental health issue. And the best way I can potentially separate the two is really if you're in need of some mental health professional help, let's say, that is more your mental well-being has an injury to it. Whereas if you're looking at mental performance, your mental well-being is healthy. We just want to make it even better than what it currently is. And so I think it's very similar where if someone has, an injury to their leg, you're not going to fix it just by squatting right away.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to go through some rehabilitation before we get to get a little stronger with that. And I think that's what becomes so difficult, because obviously if someone breaks their leg, it's obvious they shouldn't be squatting. But when someone is struggling with some anxieties and depression, that is a little bit more than just performance anxiety, let's say, or a little bit more than mental performance. That's where athletes, coaches, parents, everyone is having a really tough time trying to figure out, okay, what type of resources do I need help with right now? What exactly do I focus on? Because it's not tangible then, and it's very hard to look inside and say, okay, what do I actually need to get better?
Yeah, and I think that coaches have done a great job in today's world in trying to navigate their athletes and understand where they're coming from mentally. And I think this was something that maybe was addressed back in the day, but not as much anymore. There's certain practices that could be implemented that could really help athletes kind of, as you put it, rehab and get to the point now where they can get in a good mental space to where they can perform.
And yes, I think a couple things. I think there's in the past been a stigma about if you are struggling with mental health, it's not something that was talked about, and now it's something that's talked about a ton, which
Yeah.
is good. I mean, we go to a physical to check on our physical health. We go to the dentist to check on our dental health. We don't wait until we're in excruciating pain to go to one of those two. Hopefully, right? We go through those
Hmm.
checkups. Same thing with mental health. We should probably have some form of mental health checkups before you feel like, oh man, I'm not doing well. So I think that is probably a healthy practice to just get involved in some type of being comfortable talking about how someone's feeling. And I've had, it's unfortunate because you hear in the news of maybe someone not necessarily just stepping away from their sport, but college athletes taking their life, and all those struggles that have come about. And right around the time that actually James Madison University had their stud player, their number one player, catcher, take her life in the middle of the season, I had 4 or 5 different parents come up to me and say, hey, I just want to be proactive about my daughter. Do you have a resource of someone I can just have to talk to? She's really good. I feel like there's some pressures. parents are trying to help their kids and don't always know how and where to. But I think finding someone, a resource to talk to and get guidance from is probably the first step.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. All right, well, let's move on. I just wanted to point that story out. Obviously,
Mm,
it was a big story throughout Major League Baseball this week and had a lot to do, I think, with coaching and, of course, the mental side to it. But let's get to today's episode, something that is a little bit more cheerful. Episode 8, part 4 of the National Championship in 2012. That final game against Oklahoma. That day, I got a chance to watch some clips this week of that game.
mm,
And we'll get to when you guys, during the rain delay, went out and you were chanting and singing, and I'm looking at the Oklahoma bench. They all looked miserable, but it seemed like that entire day was just nasty weather.
mm,
And you wake up, and from the moment you wake up, you look outside, you look through the windows of your hotel, and it's just nasty. It looks dirt. The clouds look dirty. It looks like it's going to pour, and it's awful day, awful weather day. Um, what was your mindset for you personally, pregame and kind of just being at the hotel, knowing that, hey, look, this is it. I'm a senior. We're a senior class here. This is our last shot to win a national championship. Today is the day. There is no
mm.
real tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, you know what? It's I think waiting around for a game like that all day is a form of torture where it's like, hey, you're gonna play at 6 p.m. tonight, your last game ever.
Yeah.
It's so, I kept it was hard the entire day to not be like, this is your last time waking up on a game day. This is your last time going to your pregame lunch. This is your last. It was hard to not have those thoughts creep in, but at the same time, we had practiced so much the entire year of just staying present, staying present. You win this moment, you move on to the next one. And you really did have to win the day, not just the game. Because if you sat there and got yourself in this like adrenaline crazed rush, we would have been exhausted come game time. So we did a really good job of like, okay, well, we can't go play the game right now. We're going to go get lunch. And then we can't go do this. We have to go get taped. Like, I think we did a good job of that. Actually, our athletic trainer, we stayed in like an embassy suites where there was a big center area of the hotel. So all the rooms faced inward and you could look over the balcony. You saw the dining area, the lobby. He had the idea that he wanted to try to throw a frisbee from one end to the other, which was about 50 yards. And you know what? Thank goodness he did that, because what a relief like that was. We spent about an hour and a half trying to get that frisbee across, and of course it was banging off the elevator.
I was
And
gonna say, you know how hard it is to throw a frisbee? I'm terrible at it.
oh
But
man.
I'm pretty good athletically.
So we joked, we called it like the valley toss, and we ended up getting it like one complete valley toss. There, that was just such a perfect distraction. Like that was okay. Let's go do something fun that doesn't let us just stew in our room worrying about the game. So yeah, that was. I mean, as long as we were enjoying each other, like what more could you have asked for? You know what I mean? That's
Right.
talk about your last time being a part of a team. So
Oh, sure, and certainly broke up the routine, but there were some points there where you kind of stayed on routine, and again, it made it harder to do because then you had the 3-hour rain delay, and we talked last week about really not having clubhouses at all. You had trailers, um, so it wasn't like you guys were in a cushy spot to be when there's a 3-hour rain delay. So take us through that rain delay, the 3 hours, and what that was like for you guys as a team. Because again, as you get closer to game time, it seems like the tension is starting to ramp up a little bit.
Oh, for sure. And we had Christopher England was our video guy, and
Hmm.
he would stay up all night making these like motivational videos of clips from the night before, clips throughout season. So on our way to the game on the bus, he starts playing the video, right? And
Hmm.
there's quotes of Matthew McConaughey from We Are Marshall, and all. It was such a good video. We watched it about 4 or 5 times. We're fired up. I'm like, wow, we're really ready. And you're right. That
Yeah.
whole day it was cloudy, but again, I guess staying in the present. Like I knew there was a chance of rain, but I really wasn't obsessing over the weather app,
Hmm.
And we get there, and I realized like we're not moving as quick, and I thought I thought our coach was going to surprise us with like a guest speaker. Like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why we weren't getting on the field, and someone was like, "We're in a rain delay," and I was like, "No, you're lying." And I opened the door, and it was, I mean, pouring. I just couldn't fathom having to wait any longer for that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3 hours of sitting
Was
around.
there talk that maybe those be pushed back a little bit?
Yep, there was
Yeah.
talk if it couldn't start before I think 11:30 p.m. they were gonna
Hmm.
try to move it to the next day. But because of that, it was like so many of like the ESPN reporters and umpires, like it was gonna be a mess. It was gonna be such a weird setup. You're gonna play in the middle of the day, and their pitcher had never pitched 3 games in a row. the entire season. And that was like, or 3 days in a row, I should say. And so that was our big push, was like, we wanted to get to this pitcher and force her to pitch the 3rd day in a row. So that was, you know, I was like, this is just not going to help us if we give her another day of rest, you know? But thankfully we played, but I remember thinking like, my stomach sank when I heard that. And then I was like, all right, you have zero control over it. Just move on. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
It really was like, you know, your emotions wanted to fall off this cliff and you just kept having to bring them back.
Right. Well, at least there wasn't an in-game delay. There was.
Yes.
So I was going to say, I mean, you know, you're first thrown off your routine, you know, being pushed back 3 hours, and then of course you have that in-game rain delay. We'll get to that in just a second, though. You mentioned their pitcher, and you wrote in the notes, and we've talked about this, about how it was a Randy Johnson type pitcher. So she was just dominant, I'm guessing. What was it like facing her, and what was your game plan as an offense going into facing a pitcher like that?
Sure. So she was really, really tall lefty, consistently threw around 73, 74. And that's hard to get. Like, she basically had what's called a drop curve. So from a lefty, it looks like it's coming at your front hip and it'll end up, you know, in the other batter's box low type thing. So that's why I said it was kind of like that Randy Johnson type movement. And so she wasn't as comfortable throwing inside. So we would move all the way up in the box and we would move on top of the plate. And the day before that worked, we ended up scoring 8 runs off of her, and she got taken out of the game the day before. So of course, second day, we go right back to that same game plan, and boy, did she make an adjustment. And I think every single pitch was a different speed. It was like 68 to 73 and she was mixing, and she struck out, I think, our first 7 or 8 batters in a row. So we were like, okay. And we finally, I believe in the 4th inning, we made another adjustment where we decided to back off the plate just a little bit. But it was, righties had one game plan, you know, lefties had a different game plan. And that certainly wasn't a conducive pitcher for a lefty to be facing. And our righties did much better off of her that entire series.
Yeah. What was your plan going into facing her?
So I was on top of the plate and I was trying to hit like the pitch that was going to look like it was coming in. I was thinking hitting opposite field, and in that series it worked twice, and I hit 2 hard line drives right at people, and I was like, okay, that worked. It just, you know, didn't find the hole. I got hit a couple times by her, and then walked quite a few times, but I mean, she got me good quite a few times during that entire series too. She was good. She was a great pitcher, but you know, it was interesting every time when you face someone like that. It was like every pitch, if you took a ball, if you fouled a pitch off, it was like we were going to go crazy over it. We're going to celebrate the tiniest of details, because that's really what it was. We had to just wear her down a little bit. Keep seeing pitches. So that was the game plan, was just to really make her work as much as possible.
By the way, be sure to follow us on social media. I'm at Jim Tara on Twitter and Instagram. Cassie is Coach_Cassie RB on Instagram, Coach Cassie RB on Twitter. Get that plug in there. Email us jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Okay, now getting to the part of the game where you guys are down by 3 runs and you're facing the equivalent of Randy Johnson. What was the mindset then? What did you guys feel like? Because it's at this point, from the time you woke up to when you guys were down by 3 runs, this has been a roller coaster type day. I mean, kind of what you expected in a way, but there were so many monkey wrenches thrown into it with the weather and the delay and everything else.
Yeah. So if you actually look at the top of that inning, the top of the 4th inning, it had started to drizzle, started to rain a little bit. And our pitcher had a really tough time with it. She got 2 outs and then walked the next 2 batters in a row, and then finally got the 3rd girl for strike 3. And so we were like, all right, good job. Like, she figured out how to pitch in the rain, because the field really wasn't an issue. The ball wasn't that wet, but it was drizzling a little bit. So now we go into the bottom of the 4th, and their pitcher starts throwing wild pitches. And we're like, oh my gosh, she can't pitch in this. And it's not raining any harder than it was before, but this pitcher just cannot pitch in this. So we had gotten, we got a hard hit single. That was a big deal. Wild pitch center to second, wild pitch center to third, another walk. So like we ended up scoring 1 run, I believe. No runs. I can't remember exactly how the setup we had it before, but she was just not able to hit or catch her. And so we were fired up. It's not raining any harder than what our pitcher was pitching, and they decided to call it because she's having a tough time pitching. So of course we were a little bit pissed off. We were like,
I'm
this is ridiculous.
this reminds me of my favorite football player of all time, Troy Aikman, who could never throw in the rain. He could not throw,
Yeah.
and he's admitted this. He couldn't throw a wet football. I don't know if it
Mhm.
was something mental, and it sounds like this was the problem with this gal too. She was
Oh,
dominant. She was an ace, and she couldn't throw in the rain.
it was like this little bit of kryptonite that started to happen. And so when they called the rain delay, we were like, we basically hopped out of the dugout to make a point that it's not raining that hard.
Mm,
But what that turned into instead was like, we had our fans doing cheers, like any of the cheers you'd hear at a football game. Let's say we started to do those.
yeah.
And
Okay, well, let me stop you.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that? Because that's I mean, again, I've watched this video and people are going to hear it on the audio side in the background. They're going to hear that actual chant. Um, I've watched it on YouTube. Whose idea was it to get everybody out there? We're down by this many runs. We're in a rain delay here. Our last game for some of us in our career. Let's get out and let's do some chants.
I'm not 100% sure. I think it was like maybe one person might have said it, and then everyone's like, yep, everyone out of the dugout. Like it was this collective, like, yes, like we're not going anywhere type thing. And momentum is such a important factor. Like and this is something cool. Like you don't have to just be a player to know how big momentum is. Like you could be a fan in the stands and realize like, wow, momentum is like a real thing here.
Yeah.
And we had a fan, her name's Emily P. Tech Clifford, who comes in striped crimson overalls with a big pink sombrero. She's nominated for ESPN Hall of Fans. She comes to just about every softball game, and she's just like this conductor with the stands, and she makes an impact on games. So she's in Oklahoma City leading every cheer, and it's funny because again, Oklahoma's team is probably like, what the heck are they doing?
Oh, the camera panned to them on the bench and they looked miserable.
Oh,
and some confused, of course.
Yeah, and just like, what is going on? Meanwhile, all of our focus is on us, and we're just enjoying each other. And I don't know. It wasn't to try to spite anyone, or it was more just like it turned into like, hey, we're just playing like kids, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was special because obviously at the time we didn't know we were gonna take the lead after the rain delay, but during that rain delay, it was just like, okay, this is what are our two options here? To just like be pissed that they called the rain delay, or let's have some fun out here.
what did you, after you guys were done outside the dugout and you went back inside, what were the talks like? What were the hitting plans? What were the pitching plans? What was the overall strategy to try to get back into this game?
Sure. Yeah, we were so righties were going to back off the plate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to I don't know if I think we had a take sign on until she threw a strike because of how wild she was throwing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think really those were the two main things. But what we were doing was working, because obviously we were threatening, and then it turned into a couple more huge base hits, a couple of more errors, a couple of more wild pitches, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, we score the fourth run to take the lead. And I mean, we had talk about all this excitement that had been bubbling over. It was like I felt like our dugout was just like, one of those cartoon houses that looked like it was about to pop open. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. I was thinking about this preparing for the show this week, and I don't know, maybe it's because I do believe that stars do align in life. I wonder if that game, when you guys woke up and you had all that rain, and then you had the 3-hour rain delay, and they said, you know what, we're going to push the game back. We get the okay from our television partners and everybody. We're going to push the game back a day. I wonder if we'd be sitting here right now talking about you guys winning the national championship, because it seems like everything sort of built up to that moment to where you guys took the lead, and eventually you went on to win that game.
Yeah, you know what? When you talk to anybody who's won a national championship or won any championship, it's like, what goes into it, right? And they're talking about internal leadership and the talent and blah, 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 blah. And then at the very end, they're going to say, and a little bit of luck. Like a lot has to line up for you could have everything go right, and then, or all the pieces be in the right places, and then for some reason things just go a little weird, haywire. And yeah, I'll tell you what, like we didn't know she couldn't throw in the rain. We didn't know. That's life. It's timing. It's special moments that align and click. And I agree with you. I don't know if we're saying this if we wait another day to play that game. Who knows, right? Because a lot of our family and a lot of our fans had flights booked for the next day, where Oklahoma doesn't have to fly anywhere. They would have had the clear advantage. They would have had an extra day's rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
Time, yeah, really, timing and luck. I mean, you see it so many times in professional sport. We see it every year. We see it in baseball. We see it in football. We see it with mostly every championship that's won. It's a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of luck. I wouldn't say a lot of timing either. It's a lot of talent, but
Mhm.
there's a little bit of that luck involved, and you need to catch some of those breaks to be able to win.
Right. And if it wasn't, like, if you didn't have that stuff that happens, those special moments, then
Right.
why not just determine it on paper, right? Why not?
Correct. Yeah. Put it into a computer
Exactly. Yeah.
as they do in Major League Baseball now, and try to figure it out there.
Right.
Play fantasy. It is fantasy sports season, so just put it into a
Mhm.
computer.
There you
And
go.
so when you guys took the lead and that final inning,
Mhm.
you knew you're 3 outs away. What was you had to be antsy in the field. Take me, just take me, just, that's the only question I want to ask. Take me through your mindset there. 3 outs away from winning a national championship, something that you have worked, and I've gotten now a glimpse because each week we've talked about it leading up to this. Your entire career, your life that you've dedicated to softball, and you're 3 outs away from claiming that ultimate goal.
Oh, for sure. And I'd say I was more antsy, like, in the dugout in the top of the seventh. Excuse me,
Mhm.
the bottom of the sixth, because you realize, like, holy cow, because we had scored one more run, so we now have a 5-3 lead, and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, we're in control of our own destiny. I was more antsy in the dugout, and I was like, hey guys, we're staying in the present. Make sure we stay in the present. Let's make sure we stay in the present.
Yeah.
And one of the
Yeah.
girls turns around and was like, hey Cass, make sure you stay in the present.
Yeah.
Like, you're the
Yeah.
one that seems like you need this. But
Yeah.
jogging out onto the field was, I don't know, it was almost this, like, very calming, like, this was no big deal. This was something we've always done. So actually getting to my position felt good. We got a quick out right away. So I think they had 9-1-2 up to the plate, but we got a quick out right away. The next girl was a lefty slapper, and my freshman year in college, we're playing Mississippi State, and this lefty slap hitter comes up. She does her 2 steps, slaps the ball. It ends up coming down the first base line, and the runner's running at me. I'm running at the ball. I try to get out of the way of the runner as I try to field the ball. Obviously, she's safe. And my coach, is like, choose me up one side, down the other. Is like, you have to make contact with her because she's in the way of you getting to the ball. Don't get out of her way. Not. And so the very next practice, I see a station set up. There's 3 managers to the side, and they has me running into the guy over and over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So in the bottom, or in the top of the 7th inning, lefty slapper gets up. That play has not happened a single time in my entire career except for my freshman year. And then the top of the 7th, she hits a ball down the right field line, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's running right at me. And so we make contact, and actually one of my teammates was like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, like, I'm pretty sure she's out right now. And the umpires convened out number 2. And so
Wow.
I was like, holy cow. Cause, like, who knows if that play doesn't happen, if I would have thought of that, but,
Smart play.
well, shoot, it worked out because the very next girl hit a home run. So
Right.
there you go.
I mean, there's your veteran presence right there. Let me ask you this. When you were running out to the field for the top of the 7th inning, did you at all think that this could be the final half inning of my career? Was that all at all in your mind?
You know what? I had so many times thoughts like that pop in my head throughout the day,
Mhm.
but for that, I don't know, that inning, it didn't. It just, I
Okay.
don't know. That
So you're
was
just
like,
focused on the championship.
that was just this out. I know it sounds crazy, but it was like, it wasn't even the champ. It was just like, hey, it's an inning and it's a pitch and it's an out. And it was so laser focused on win this pitch. Good, reset, deep breath. Let's do it again. Win this pitch. This ball's coming to me. Good, reset, dude. It was there was nothing else. I don't know. I know it sounds weird, but that was what was so calming, I think.
You know what? It's I don't think it's weird at all. It's putting on the blinders, and it's understanding to be. I mean, everybody always talks about, hey, be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment. But you have to be in the moment when you may be playing the final half inning in a national championship game, going for something that you've been working for your entire life. And it sounded like you were in that moment. Now, that's a prime example of truly being in the moment.
Right. And I think, plenty of athletes have experienced that before. But I don't think I've experienced it to that degree besides that inning, it was just a different level of focus, and it was very calming. There was no like, like, it was just very like, okay, good. This pitch, nice. Look over to my second baseman. Hey, lefty's up, probably coming this way. Like, came this way last time. Like, just very,
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it sounds strange, but
No,
that was.
next week is part 5, and we're going to talk about the aftermath to all this. But I'm wondering, when that last out was recorded,
Mm-hmm.
pure euphoria for you guys. What was that feeling for you?
In looking back, we won in the most like, or the least preparedness way. Meaning, like, if someone hits a fly ball, you can be like, oh, this might be it. She's gonna catch it. Or a ground ball again, like, oop, this might be it. It was a called strike 3. So National Player
Yeah,
of the Year is at the plate. This is the
yeah,
Oklahoma's pitcher is at the plate. We get a called strike. Then she hits a ground ball to a foul ball for strike 2. And any, like, baseball, softball, like, you're not gonna go throw strike 3 probably right away. It's like you probably have some waste pitch or whatever. And I don't know if the pitcher was thinking that. If you talk to my pitcher, she was supposed to throw a waste pitch and she missed the ball. Like she threw a flat pitch on the outside corner. So I see the umpire stand up, I see my catcher stick it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And right when I start to see her right hand go in the air, that's when I was like, that's strike 3. Like,
yeah,
like, that means we won it.
yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I think it's so strange to go back and think of like what you think about.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my first thought that came to my head. So many times throughout the season, we talked about if we win it and we dogpile, do people ever get hurt with metal spikes and dog piles, right?
Oh,
like
sure.
That was like, we always joked about that. So someone's like, so do you think we're gonna like run up to the dog pile and take our shoes off like we're about to go in someone's house? They're like, we're not gonna do that. So right as we won it, I remember thinking, I'm like, there's no way I'm taking my cleats off right now as I'm running. That was my first thought.
Yeah. So okay, so you guys did dog pile, I'm guessing.
If you
Nobody
ever
got
look
hurt.
at the video, our pitcher fist bumps and our catcher comes running at her with like big open arms, and our pitcher jumps up and flattens our catcher. I mean, hits her and she goes flat in her back, and then everyone kind of fell on top of that. So nobody got hurt, but I mean, you should go look up the video. I think it literally says like pitcher trucks catcher for national championship.
It's a lot like when there was a fumble. College football's back this week, right? Who's Alabama playing, by the way?
Oh shoot.
Oh,
I'm such a bad. I know. Do you know why? You know what? My mom is such a huge football fan. She's tailgating the whole day, college game day picks, and I can't believe I can't believe I'm blanking right now. All right.
Well, where is she? Who's she a fan? I'm guessing Alabama.
Yes, my mom was never like a big sports fan until it came to Alabama. And now she is the cockiest Alabama football fan you ever.
Is she an NFL fan?
No.
NFL starts next week.
No, I know. She's college all the way. She has, I mean, we do the college football pick'ems. The loser for the week has to make breakfast for the next person on Sunday morning. Like,
now, without getting into too much detail, are you a betting family? Or anybody in your family wagering?
Not money. Pancakes.
Pancakes. Okay.
You wager pancakes.
Something the audience doesn't know about me. I played college. Well, they know that part. But I played at a smaller Division I school. Now, I had a cousin who went to Westchester University. They have a tremendous baseball program, Division II. I have another cousin, his sister, 2 sisters, who both went to Clemson. I have another cousin who went to Notre Dame. So I have like everything covered. Clemson, Notre Dame, and I live like 8 minutes from where USF plays.
There you go.
At Raymond James Stadium. So college football, it's got a pretty big stamp in my life.
There you go. You got it.
So, another point I want to make about the national championship game, getting back to that, it is amazing. This takes me back. I always go back to this World Series. I don't know why, but in 2019, when the Nationals in Game 7 beat the Astros, they were down, 2-0. And it felt like the Astros kind of had this World Series now in a bag. And all of a sudden, the momentum turned. It was that one thing that made the momentum turn. It seemed like in this game, when you guys were down by 3, it was that one thing you needed to make that momentum turn, whatever that may be. But it seemed like it was the rain delay. Isn't it amazing to you, though, when you get 2 teams who are at the top of their game? They're the top teams in the country, top teams in any league. And they're matching up, going blow for blow, and it's almost like a movie. It's like a movie storyline. It's like a Rocky fight, right? When he's going one-on-one with somebody, he's down, it looks like it's over, and then he just comes back. Something flips it. And it was that one thing that I find fascinating. It looked like it was the rain delay in that national championship game that just flipped it for you guys, and all of a sudden, here you are, you're dogpiling each other.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is, it almost feels a little serendipitous for sure. And, whether you want to, there's so many times where people are like, man, you must be so proud that you won the national championship. Look at all your hard work. And yes, like we worked so hard, but it's also humbling to also say, yeah, we must have had someone up there on our side, or we must have had a lot of good things go our way, because like you said, stars align. So there's like that respect to the game, where the game doesn't owe you anything, and but the game will allow you some rewarding moments, and you're thankful for it when it comes. And so that was kind of our perception of how that championship game went.
Do you remember anything else about the dog pile?
Yeah, Oklahoma, it was so hot and humid because of the rain. It wasn't even that hot. It was just really humid. So we were all super sweaty and smelly and rained on. And someone hugged me, and my eye black got completely wiped off on one eye. So in all the pictures, I look like who's that singer? There's like a singer who used to wear eye black only on one eye. So that's like all the pictures afterwards is the one eye black. I remember holding the trophy and realizing, I'm like, gosh, this is heavy. Like, this is like a real trophy. And then, believe it or not, I remember walking through the line and high-fiving those girls. And I was just, I was brought to tears at the dichotomy of the situation. You had us probably experiencing our best moment in our softball career, and then having to then high-five people who are probably experiencing the worst moment of their softball career, and how easily that could have been flipped. And I don't know, it just was like it just like was a moment where it's not that you feel bad for someone, you just realize like this is such a strange moment to be experiencing, for probably both sides.
Yeah. So is anything else that I missed here today about that national championship game?
Oh gosh.
Bring you down memory lane today.
I know it. You know what, though, for anybody who's like into hitting and into making adjustments and all that, one of the biggest hits of that game is when we took the lead, or it was a hit to tie the game, and then that girl ended up scoring the go-ahead run. She's facing Kalani Ricketts, right? She's facing the Oklahoma pitcher. Her name was Courtney Conley, and she swings at a low and outside pitch that was definitely a ball. And the year before, we're in practice, and Courtney does that. She swings at a low outside pitch that's a ball. She gets really frustrated, comes back into the at-bat, 2-3 pitches later, swings at the exact same pitch, right? And our coach kind of chewed her out and was like, Courtney, like, you got frustrated instead of determined, and you got yourself out of that at-bat. And, I was talking with her later about it, and was just saying how much she learned about it and how thankful she was the coaches didn't shy away from calling her out about it. And she's like, you know what? She's like, I'm going to be in that national championship game, and same thing's going to happen. She goes, I'm going to take that pitch, though. And so 2-3 pitches later, that low outside pitch comes back with 2 strikes, and she takes. And I was like, she could have struck out the rest of that at bat, but like that one moment, I was like, wow. Like, you talk about just all these, like, the one moment being a culmination of so many moments that happened before. And sure enough, the very next pitch after the one she took was a low pitch that was fairly flat. She hits it right over the center fielder's head, gets a double, scores a run. She ends up scoring later. It just, such a cool moment for sure. Just like little stories like that end up popping up. Are impactful.
And we're going to talk about some of those stories that were never told by you, and finally they're going to be told publicly here in the next couple of weeks. Next week, part 5 of the national championship, just the aftermath. We're going to talk about the celebration. We're going to talk about, you alluded to it, holding the trophy. We're going to talk about what that did for you and kind of springboarding you into your next venture, into that summer of 2012. Because, we're going to speak about this next week, but the softball career, it all kind of just came to an end very, very quickly, unfortunately, like it does with every athlete. So we're going to indeed talk about that next week.
Awesome. Very cool. I'm looking forward to it. I can talk about this stuff all day.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know. And that's, not a lot of people can, which is good. It's good to get an introspect about all of this. Certainly. It's not, I told Ep this on my other podcast, by the way, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, talked about preventing the lunge on this past episode 113. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. But I talked to him about this. I said, it's not every day I get to do a podcast with the best hitting instructor in the country and someone who is a tremendous coach, but also a softball national champion. So I'm a pretty lucky guy. Not former national champion, though. We talked about that. We addressed that last week. So if I get emails or comments at all, you're going to be immediately we have a new audience here than the lab. I always say you're going to be put on the pay no mind list, which is the spam folder.
I see. All right, fair.
No former.
Yes.
Do you have anything to promote before we go?
No, just same old Instagram. Definitely, I have my own coach's account at Coach _ Cassie RB. But also on Instagram, my company is at Softball Strength Academy. My business partner runs at Velo University. That is our throwing end of our program, and softball, baseball, anyone alike. It's just a ton of educational opportunities on there. So those are the Instagram accounts. And then obviously, if you do have a chance to watch this on our YouTube channel for Softball Strength Academy, might be a little more entertaining than just listening every now and then.
Yeah. You see our faces. Facial expressions. All right. Great job, Cass. Thank you very much. Episode number 9 next week. Subscribe to Cross Functionality. We do appreciate it. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jim.